investigation.
Well, as we first told you yesterday, all this started by a Bloomberg Markets Magazine investigation that found Prudential Financial and MetLife, which insured government employees, keeping death benefits in their corporate accounts instead of paying out lump sums, paying families a fraction of the interest that the corporate account is making on those death benefits as they use it to speculate in the various financial markets, and then issuing misleading guarantees about the safety of those accounts to the beneficiaries. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman from California, Linda Sanchez, who has just sent a letter to Prudential demanding some answers to the obvious questions that this brings up. Two most obvious are, can this be stopped, and can you claw back the money that's been taken from the widows and families of our fallen soldiers? Pick either.
Not sure that we can do either of those things, but definitely are looking for answers and are looking for a solution prospectively to try to end this despicable practice.
Did you know that it was a common business practice in the financial services industry to effectively try to capture or retain the assets of other people, give them crumbs, sprinkle crumbs on the little people, while those of us here in New York, particularly those in the financial services business, keep 90 to 95% of the profits of that money by what's called capturing the spread, and then we claim to be doing you a favor?
I didn't know that that was going on, and in fact, the story that broke on this practice made me angry, and I'm quite frankly disgusted that people would try to make a buck off of other people's misery, particularly military families who have loved ones that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. And I don't know what level we've sunk to when we have corporations that act in their best interests and try to make a profit off of these families during the worst tragedies that they can experience.
When you think about it, though, it's actually a great leverage to get a bailout from the taxpayer when you walk to D.C. and say, we've lost all the money for all the widows, for all the death benefit, unless you give us all the money. Sorry. Pretty good leverage, right?
Well, it's terrible. I mean, one of the most troubling aspects is that the accounts that these funds are being held in, that these funds that should have been paid out to the beneficiaries, aren't even FDIC insured. And yet there are a host of reporting requirements for money market funds and those types of things. And clearly the people who are the beneficiaries who should be receiving this money aren't getting that information and aren't even aware oftentimes that this practice is even happening. I can't imagine what it must be like for a spouse or a mother to know that they've lost the most important person in their life, and then on top of it, somebody else is duping them and trying to make a buck off of it.
Not only somebody else, somebody with a guaranteed government contract, which Prudential has, no one else could get it if they wanted to, and somebody who claims to be there to help them with a checkbook saying, oh, my dear, I'm here to help you. Take this. We'll make this easier for you as we keep all the money for ourselves. The human side of this, of course, is what truly matters. I do want you to take a listen to what Nancy Umbrell here on our show said yesterday. She and her husband, Mark, lost their son, Colby, in Afghanistan and were victimized by this scam.
The only justification I've heard so far is it's legal, and that's just as upsetting because as far as I'm concerned, Prudential's, in our case, Prudential's down there dancing on my son's grave. That's legal too. But do you do it? No.
John Soltz joins the conversation right now. He's chairman of VoteVets.org, himself an Iraq War veteran. When you see this, John, are you surprised to see financial services companies, life insurance companies, targeting poor, bereaved, vulnerable, weak individuals at a time of their greatest suffering? Does this surprise you?
Well, I'm baffled how gross this one is. Look, this has happened for a long time. There was a company around the military.
Slow down, though. What do you mean this has happened for a long time?
Well, there's a company out there called First Command. It used to be called USPA and IRA, and they've been investigated by the SEC like 15 times. You know, they sell whole life insurance to 22-year-old kids at ridiculous rates. They take 50% of your investment the first year as a fee to the brokers. There's all kinds of scams because there's a 22-year-old kid on fixed income, and so they become attractive to life insurance, whole life insurance scams for someone who has no dependents. I think what really baffles me here is what you heard Secretary Gates say. I'm still trying to figure out if this is the SGLI program because the family who was on yesterday, their son was killed in Afghanistan, and that was a $400,000 payout. So I have SGLI. Everybody in the military has SGLI. It's basically you're forced to do it. You sign up, you pay something like $50 a month, and you get a $400,000 payout on that Plus, you get a $200,000 death benefit if you die. So if you're a single, 25-year-old male soldier who dies, you should get $600,000 to whoever you decide. Mine is half to my mom, half to my dad. But if the government's partaking and not understanding and telling the soldiers or the Marines or the airmen who on the backside sort of financing the insurance, we're basically telling our troops, hey, sign up right here before you go to war. Everyone has to fill this form out for their life insurance. So I don't think anyone has any idea who's backing up the government program. If the government has participated in this and they owe these families the money, I don't care about the private insurance companies. I mean, if the government's telling our troops, hey, you need SGLI, you got to do this, or they're participating in it, it's wrong.
And then
the
at the same time,
and fix it.
Right, but it's very profitable for the MetLife building just down the street here on Park Avenue. If you could say something to Representative Sanchez or ask Representative Sanchez to do something to help you, John, what would it be?
There needs to be hearings on this, and if MetLife and Prudential will make up the difference, the federal government does. If they can bail out the banks, then they owe these fallen soldiers' families a lot of money and interest that they've lost because the government participated in an insurance scam.
Clearly, this is an issue that's just come to light, and I have no doubt that there probably will be hearings on this, most appropriately in the Veterans Committee. But as a member of the Ways and Means Committee, there is also work that we can do to try to bring resolution to this issue and try to make those who are responsible pay for it. And I think that going back to these insurance companies and making them responsible for what their pledge was when they essentially signed a contract with these families, I think is something that we will strive to do.
Can you think of better leverage for a bailout, John, than coming to Washington, having lost all of the death benefit of all of our soldiers gambling without FDIC insurance? You're guaranteed to get whatever you want from the government at that point and keep your bonus, aren't you?
Well, the government has to stop this. I mean, I'll go back to what Gates said, and this is what I thought. I assume when you have a soldier who's killed in Iraq or Afghanistan, the family gets a check for $400,000 and another check for $200,000. I don't think anybody in DOD or VA is aware that this money is being gambled. However, they're gambling, and they made 5% interest on it and only gave 1% back to the family. That entire percent, if they're going to gamble it, should go to the service member. But I think more importantly, the plan that the government's basically pushing our troops into, it shouldn't be allowed to be gambled. It should go right to the family at the time of death. And I think that's a larger issue when we have a situation where our banks are so unstable. And our banks are going to continue to be unstable.
If I could just say this, John, nobody is more surprised than I am that this practice is going on, and I think that wasn't generally known. I think had it been known, there would have been proactive steps taken to try and stop it. So the fact that it's coming to light, I think, is going to spur action, and nobody is more committed to doing that than I am. I'm going to try to use my position, again, on the Ways and Means Committee that deals with tax policy to find a way to end this practice if we can, because it's a despicable practice and it's an unsafe practice, and you're absolutely right. Could have huge repercussions, not just for the families, but for the whole country if there is another economic meltdown. So you have my pledge that I will do what I can to try to move prospectively to stop this this practice by the insurance company.
Well, let us know what votevets.org can do. We got 100,000 people on our website that support veterans, that take on, making sure our vets get what they need, making sure our wars are fought the right way. So when you want Vote Vets' help, you just get with us and we'll back you up in any way.
I think this is one that we can all align around. I'm sorry, Representative Sanchez. Go ahead.
No, we would be very pleased to work with your organization, obviously.
Listen, thank you both for having the conversation. And as I was about to say, I do believe this is an issue we can all align around. And it's incredibly powerful to give us an insight as to the psychology and business practices of the financial professionals here in New York who don't make their living seeking to lend or invest money to America, but instead make their money trying to capture custody of other people's money. In this case, the assets of the bereaved, sprinkle crumbs to keep the control of that asset, and then use it as a speculative instrument for their own enrichment until they end up at the government door with the leverage of having lost the money for the most honorable in this country. We can fix that.